I'm making moss poles again today, and I'm making moss poles that I can extend because this baby is getting huge already, and I need to get her on a moss pole now before I have a much bigger situation on my hands. I am hoping that I have enough sphagnum moss. Because I made the gigantic moss pole for my monstera, I used way more moss than I was thinking I was gonna use, so I'm kind of limited. Fingers crossed. I've got one whole unopened box, and then I gathered up all the moss from the entire house that I could find. 1 brick of cocoa peat, I'm making a 4-foot tall moss pole. Let's do this thing. Supplies. 4-foot tall stake to reinforce it. 4-foot tall mesh. This is a heavy gauge mesh, so this should be really, really strong to support this plant for like a long time. Oh my goodness, it's heavy. And then zip ties. 4 feet tall, but this stuff is good and thick. The first thing I'm gonna do though is I'm going to hydrate all the sphagnum moss, and the cocoa coir is super compressed. 4 bricks in it. It smells minty fresh. Got my cocoa coir. That's a 1.4 pound. I'm gonna put this in just to keep it from falling out. Hi, Peter. Hi. How are you, baby? Okay, I'm gonna start stuffing it in, but I'm getting my gloves. I have learned some hard lessons. Packing it in, but not too hard. So I want it to be fairly firm so it's not just gonna disintegrate and fall out. We had a little mishap. Oh my God. This thing crashed. Knocked the tripod with the phone over and smashed the ring light. It's getting heavy. Okay. Some minor repairs. We're at the final stage, if I can bend this back into shape. I left this top section open because that's where I'm going to turn water bottles upside down in order to water it. And also, when this plant gets big enough that I need to add another section, it will slide right in here, and then I'll bind them together in the future. Ugh. So heavy. So I ended up with a lot left over, and that's awesome because I do need to make a couple of smaller moss poles at some point very soon. But yeah, I've got tons left. I have enough to make a 2-foot moss pole if I need to. And I'm going to need to soon. Now for the hard part. I gotta dump her out, not break any of her leaves or her branch. This is a cutting of an absolutely enormous philodendron that we had in the greenhouse. And it was so big that people didn't want to buy it, and it had never been staked. So when we were in the greenhouse, I got this crazy idea. My favorite place in all of Texas is Moody Gardens on Galveston Island. And it has a giant glass pyramid with an artificial rainforest in it. And they have philodendron and monstera that go way up into the canopy towards the top of the pyramid. And I was like, okay, we should do that. So I cut off excess from the mom plant, and this is one of those that I cut off, and I built a cage to go around the main support beam for the greenhouse. And we made a coconut coir wrapping around the support beam to protect the plant and to retain moisture. And I took a gigantic tree pot, cut it in half, wrapped it around the bottom of the support beam, reconnected it on the sides, and we started growing the mother right up its pole. It was kind of amazing. So this baby will eventually be unbelievably big because that is one of the biggest philodendrons that I've had to work with. So getting her on this moss pole now is really important because I don't want to deal with another giant one like my Monstera. That was a lot. And I'm going to have to add an extension on to her soon because ever since I did it, she's had a major growth spurt. She's really happy on that moss pole, and I'll do an update. So she just started as a cutting, literally, that's it. But you can see from the size of the stem, even a cutting was really big. This plastic pot doesn't weigh anything, and by the time I put that huge moss pole in it, it's just going to tilt over and fall. So I'm going to solve that problem right now. In order to stabilize that giant moss pole, this flimsy little plastic pot is not going to do it. This is also a plastic pot, but it's big enough that I can fit a smaller pot inside and use that to stabilize the moss pole. I'm going to be using chunks of broken concrete from an old fountain that I found in the backyard in the woods, and hopefully that will help it to stabilize and not flip over. Let's see how this goes. Now I'm going to attach the plant. I just thought of something terrible. I don't know if this pot drains. Watch out, Peanut. Shoo shoo. Don't want to crush my puppies. You guys, look what I did. Now I'm going to put the plant in here and try to get it attached. Where my little baby? Okay, so just like with my big Monstera, I'm going to temporarily use these zip ties to hold her up and get those nodes attached. That is not my long-term goal. So right here, I just barely loosely have her kind of pulled up against it because I don't want to choke the stems, and I have nodes and aerial roots already growing out. Okay, so just barely attached, not tight at all. Those will get changed out, but I've got her all the way around. Okay, I'm all done. I ended up having to use 3 stakes to support it. After that crash, it bent it really, really badly, and I struggled to try to get it bent straight again. But with the 3 supports, everything is standing pretty sturdy. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off all of these and put her in a window, and hopefully she'll be happy. Have fun gardening. See you later.